Welcome to Paterson's first inaugural World Cafe on Education, hosted today by Paterson Education Association and New Family Foundation. We're here today to discuss some topics related to education and what learning is and what opportunity looks like for our students in our schools.
So when we think of World Cafe, there are 3 principles and 4 agreements and 3 practices. The principles pretty much, 3 principles: leadership rotates, responsibility is shared, and then have a higher purpose. So there's no one leader. You know, when you're having discussion, make sure you're sharing responsibility. If you're over taking that conversation, you might want to think about it and probably take a step back and maybe let other people have a say in that, right? This is probably ordinary conversational methods, but doesn't always translate sometimes. There's always that one person that's got more to say than everybody else, right? So take a step back a little bit and let everyone else have an opportunity to add their input. Most importantly, our students, right? Because oftentimes their voices are the least to be considered, especially when they're the most impacted. And then have a higher purpose. So what we're doing here is not just for show, and it's not just so that we can just have this conversation, but let's think about the broader picture. What do we want to do with this information hereafter, right? How do we want to package it? What do we want to do with it once, because it's not just having conversations, not enough. It's great. It allows us to connect to other people and be in space with other people, but we want to actually possibly do something with this, right? And then the 4 agreements, we want to make sure that stories that are shared here, we want to keep it here, keep it confidential, unless the person is giving you explicit permission to share their story, their individual story. If they say, yeah, you can share my story outside, whatever, that's fine, but we want to honor people's narratives and voices if they're asking you to. We want to listen to each other with compassion. We're going to ask for what we need and offer what we can during the space, so we're taking care of each other. And we agree to pause when needed. So if it's getting heated, and you're not agreeing on something, if you need to pause, it's fine. And then the 3 practices, we want to make sure that we speak with intention, listen with attention, and tend to the well-being of each other. Just taking care of each other during the conversation. For the first round, you'll engage in conversation around the first question. It'll be 15 minutes of conversation with the group of people that you're with. There's chart paper in the middle with markers. The markers in the chart paper is there for you to kind of take notes, jot down what you're saying. Often say, if it's not documented, then it didn't happen. All right, so we want to make sure that we're documenting our conversations and the things that we're saying. After that, once the 15 minutes is up, if you find that you've exhausted the time even before the 15 minutes, I'll come around with a Post-it. And you're going to pull out the top 3 points that were made in that conversation and jot it down on the Post-it, and then we'll harvest out. After the harvesting, then we'll rotate to the next question, which means that you'll need to, one person will stay at the table, you choose who that person is, and then everyone else will move around to a different table so that you're talking to other people and not with the same people that you were when you started the conversation. The idea is that you're hearing other voices and you're hearing other perspectives during this time. All right, you want to read the question?
Okay, so question number 1. Think back to your favorite learning environment. How would you describe this learning environment?
So this is our lead-in question. We want to think back to your favorite learning environment. And when I say learning environment, it's not just a formal schooling, right? So think back, what were those qualities? How would you describe that, right, learning environment? It'll build up. So I'm looking at faces and you're saying, but the question, it builds up to, and we'll see how it's going to build up. When you think about that favorite learning environment that you had growing up, or even now as an adult or whatever it is, what were the qualities? How would you describe that learning environment? And even maybe even the person or the people that were even in that environment too as well, okay? What were the qualities? What were what did you learn even? Yep, so any questions before we? No, okay. So you can go off to a table. It'll take about 15 or so minutes to discuss that question. Think about the qualities of that.
I go. I mean, a good learning environment for me was home. Also, my mother, she taught me, to be well respectful, and like she always made me do little problems and read books and anything that involved me learning more on my off time. Like she made sure that that I did that, or I was practicing. Gave me a lot of practice. Like she'll write a bunch of math problems on one page and on another page and tell me to do it, and then I'll hand it to her. And if it's not right, I gotta do it over again. Things like that. So that's one that I could say. That was a good learning environment for me.
Last effective instruction. Last instruction.
So what were the favorite environments that?
Mine was, it was about my parents giving me the kind of nurturing that I needed to enjoy learning, and gave one of the main examples was my father inadvertently maybe, or he might have had it in his mind as a plan, when I would bring artwork my drawings to him. He would encourage me by his excitement, his liking what he was seeing, and saying to me that I was doing such a good job. And I was explaining that several years later, I found some of those pieces of art, and I thought, this is really not good at all. But because of the way he
building
said,
your self-esteem.
wow, this is something. And I felt like it was that love that made me want to do better and keep showing him. And that's when we kind of moved on to about how, we need teachers who do that. But if you're in in a school system where there are a lot of people who are misbehaving, it's very difficult to even get to that point, because several people are just out of whack. Behavior is a form of communication. And we sometimes just focus on when you need to be punished, because that's how the American system is. You did something bad, we're just going to punish you. Rather than educate you, rather than rehabilitate you, rather than make you a better person who now can contribute to the group. But that's why I like that. We need to look at, if those students are coming in acting out, they're saying something. They're saying, I've been abused at home. I'm missing the stuff, the nutrients that I need, actual sustenance that I need with food, the love I need. I think a lot of times these young parents or older lack the ability to show love. I don't think everybody understands how do you demonstrate love, right? They might think, well, I got these kids, I'm on Section 8, they got a place to stay. That's not enough. Sometimes parents, and I got to say this, a lot of parents, our folks, and I know people are going to seriously disagree with me, but I've been saying this for a long time. A lot of parents think that when someone is misbehaving, the way to deal with that is to beat them. Start beating them up as quickly as you possibly can. Knock them upside the head. Violence. We're teaching violence. So, but the only thing that they're learning is, okay, violence is the solution. That's the answer. So when I'm bringing them to the community and there's a problem there, I'm going to be violent. I think that the solution, even though corporal punishment may have its place, I'm not saying to completely throw it out. I'm saying that shouldn't be the first line of response. It should be, how do I show love? How do I encourage? How do I say, here's the things you've been doing really well, and I'm proud of you for that, and I love you, I embrace you because of that. And fathers need to do this. And I think, honestly, black fathers lack this ability, because they think, I'm giving you a shelter. And I'm not chastising fathers or parents who do this. I'm saying we all need to learn a better way. Because all the time when people say, that kid is messing up, beat him quick. I say, you know what? We've been beating them quick for centuries, and we're still in this bad situation. So I think that we need to change it up a little bit.
My favorite learning environment was the military. I had a wealth of knowledge imparted in my development from the military. Structure, learning how to take orders, learning how to give orders. You learn how to take them before you give them. Getting along with people, and just, knowing how to build and meet their expectations. You know, in leadership, I was a platoon sergeant as well. So, you know, I really found that a very enriching part of my development, being in the military.
I, I was honest when I said I couldn't really remember much, but I reflected back to my grandfather, who probably had maybe a second grade education, but he had a career, if you will, that was a coveted position in our southern town, working at the Reynolds Metal Company. But he always had a lot of confidence in whatever I did, whether it was rubbing something that was hurting him. And what he taught me from that was that I had compassion and that I could provide healing and comfort to people. And it probably led to my becoming a social worker in terms of the kinds of services I provided. So it was a non-traditional learning environment, but it certainly taught and helped to develop character and a sense of confidence.
So what made that such a good learning environment for me was the fact that it was something that we were going to apply and use to solve a problem. So it was like you had to, you know what I'm saying? You had to learn, you had to know your stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's what made it. Not that I'm really supposed to be participating right now, but just to kind of like give you an idea of like this is not, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just for you to think back into a moment in time where you really felt like you learned a skill or developed a skill, and what was that environment like that made that, you know, develop? Because we don't always develop those skills.
So it's social environment you learn it through?
Well, I think what it was for me was the fact that the environment was that we were actually going to take the work and use it to solve a problem. That was the environment. Not that so much as the environment, but that was the culture of
the culture of
like you got to know this stuff, you got to understand the history, you got to understand the other side, you know what I'm saying? So how are you going to combat it if you don't understand it? So because you knew how to do that and have such purpose behind it, that's what made it, I guess maybe passion too. That's passion as well, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. It's nothing. This is just talking, being people, you know what I'm saying? I know it's kind of new. It takes a little getting used to. But I just know it's cool.
Our favorite learning experiences, we narrowed to 3. One is nurturing love and encouragement. And one person in our group talked about how he had a particular talent and the parents nurtured and encouraged and supported that talent. The second one was nurture learning about yourself internally as a person, where opportunities should be provided for that person to be introspective, to have some quiet time, and to really self-reflect. Okay. And the last one was finding a way to identify a problem in the learning and ways to solve that problem with action and quantifying the problem and the solution.
So it's like self-driven by you, the individual.